Hey troops, welcome back to the channel. We are live, so this is not a premiere, this is a live video. If you guys can hear me okay, let me know in the chat. A little bit laxed on the a little bit more laxed on the live streams, troops, because there's no editing involved. We are literally just here to have a fun time, give a bit of an update. So yeah, the pace will be slightly different if you're brand new to the channel. But if you are regular here, you'll know what to do. The first few moments, we do a bit of admin, we get some stuff squared away, and then we get ready for what we got to do. We've got a few things that we want to go through today. Sometimes when we're doing these videos, there's an awful lot of information that I want to get through, but a lot of the time it's difficult to condense it into a video that's 10-15 minutes long without rushing through all the points. So I think it's good that we can do a live stream every now and again, so we can get through some of the news articles that just don't make it into the video. Everyone's saying that the audio is good. That's good. The picture look okay. If you can do me a massive favor, I can say this on a live stream because it's again a different pace, but I'll explain why it helps so much. Just a bit of an information for you guys. If you smash the like button straight away, the more likes that occur on the video, and the quicker they occur. So if we have 100 viewers with 100 likes, and if you're watching the video for a long period of time, that helps this video get recommended on YouTube. So YouTube will just go, hey, people like this content, we're going to smash this out into the YouTube network and let the algorithm do the rest of the talking. So the easiest thing you can do for any, not just me, even if you're watching anyone else, the easiest and the most beneficial thing you can do is smash that like button, guys, and obviously watch the content as long as possible. It really just helps the channel out. Okay. I'll be asking you guys to do that every 15, half an hour or so, 15 minutes, half an hour or so. So please don't be worried if I'm doing that. I don't want to bore you guys every couple of minutes saying it. So every half an hour or something, I'll mention it, guys. Okay, but we've got a lot of information that I want to go through with regards to the Russian offensive campaign assessment. It was last updated yesterday. That's how it's always been. All right, a day in lieu, so to speak. We've got a little bit of the map studies to go through. There's two maps I want to use. One has semi-up-to-date information. The other doesn't, because there's been a media blackout. So make of that as you wish. And then we've got a couple of other news articles that we want to get into that we don't normally go through. Hey, Michael Kane, thank you. Welcome to the Gendit Members Club, brother. I think I can actually donate members as well. If you guys can donate memberships, feel free. If you want to help out the stream, if you want to join Patreon to support the channel, that's above as well. All the usual stuff, troops, okay, that helps a small independent channel such as myself. And I say small in comparison to some of the guys out there getting millions of views per day on this stuff, but rightfully so, they do a fantastic job. Let me know if you've just joined the channel. Smash that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll get straight into it. But troops, first things first, we are going to go through the campaign assessment. Boom. So it should look a little bit like this. I will get through some of your questions and stuff like that. The best way to, obviously get my attention and semi-stop the stream and the flow of things is if you super chat, then I'm clearly going to respect that, okay, because you've super chatted. So if you want to super chat the channel for your questions, and if you want to sway the way the conversation goes, then that's probably the best way to do it, guys. But you're certainly not obliged to do that. Yeah, Dan Antonio Barnes says, love your lives, brother, checking in from South Carolina. Wow, amazing, man. Thank you guys for stopping by. Semperfi, USMC Devil Dog 0311. Thank you for your service, brother. Anyway, let's get into 129 in the chat. That'll do me. 91 likes. Let's get over 100. So, yeah, this is it. As of yesterday. Now, Russian forces continue to target critical Ukraine civilian infrastructure with air, missile, and drone strikes on October 18th, so earlier yesterday. We did a video on that, and they also continued today, or yesterday, well, yesterday, it's now 1 minute past midnight. They also continued that, I believe, yesterday. We did a video on that. They targeted certain cities, and the one that we were talking about was north of Kiev. This is going to go into a little bit of a different areas that they were kicking off with, so that'll be interesting. But it's interesting to see how that changes public opinion. There's only one reason. There's a number of reasons they're going to do something like that. Some people say it's in retaliation X, Y, and Z, but it's not necessarily in retaliation for what happened in the with the bridge situation. Okay, it's there to terrorize the local populace, to make them scared of the current situation. And if they can do that long enough, and I'm talking about Russia here, we've seen in the past, if you can do that long enough, they terrify the people, not making them into a situation where they don't know when the next problem's going to come. What happens is they tend to sway towards the oppressor a little bit more, in the sense of whatever they're wanting, they're prepared to give them that and meet the demands of that, to stop it from happening. So there's method in the madness, okay, which is a strange situation to be in. But you know, that's how people react. If you want this treacherousness to stop, you'll end up saying, well, hey, look, we'll take your side. What do you want? Yeah, let's give them it, as long as they're going to stop what they're doing. So that's kind of the mentality behind it. I think Russia would be using that mentality and that process going forward if they had the means to do so. But, you know, as there's rumours is that they don't actually have their kit and equipment to resupply, they certainly allegedly don't have as much of the weaponry and bombs and munitions as they say they have to be able to continue that onslaught at that level, okay, every single day sustained. They haven't got the kit and equipment. But the Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian forces launched 19 missile strikes and 68 airstrikes against over 10 areas, including Kiev and these regions here. We've got Kharkiv City there, Dnipro City, Kryvyo. We've got a couple of other places as well that I'm not going to even try to pronounce. And other areas in Donetsk, Kherson, and Mykolaiv Oblasts. The Ukrainian General Staff also reported that Russian forces targeted unspecific areas with 43 kamikaze drones. That was what we were speaking about today, or yesterday, a few minutes ago. And the kamikaze drone situation, literally striking normal areas, guys. We'll get back into this. I'll just pull it up on the map. You know, you couldn't. This type of stuff is horrendous. Just a normal area, Chernihiv, I believe it was. Kamikaze style drones. Where are we at? Yeah, explosion from Shahed kamikaze drones. So them's the ones that have been given by the Iranians, I believe, which is bloody mental. You can see on the pictures there. That's just going to cause mass amounts of terror troops. All right. Hey, Spencer Onigan, member for 7 months. Smash the like button, people. Thank you for that, buddy. And thank you for being a member for 7 months, man. I appreciate that. 183 viewers. Thank you, troops. We're live. This is not a upload video. This is a live video, so you can interact with me if you want to. Just super chat or whatever, and you'll get some form of interaction on the stream. Now, 38 of which Ukrainian forces are shot down. They've been shooting these kamikaze drones with bloody AKs, okay? They've just been firing into the air. We've seen that today on one of the videos. If you haven't seen the latest video that I did, have a look, guys. It's quite interesting. It's, look, I'm not going to say I was the best shot in the world. I got to a standard where I was pretty good. I was a GBMG gunner when I was in the Royal Marines, okay? Came pretty proficient and efficient at using that weapon system. You want to start shooting down drones with AKs? That's not going to be easy, guys, okay? Trust me, I own a few drones. I understand the mechanics of how to operate these things. And, you know, they can be very, very elusive bits of kit. And you'd be surprised at just how quick a big drone, or reasonably big drone, can disappear into the atmosphere, even though it's only 100, 200, 300 meters away. Not too far, but trust me, when those things are in the air, you'd be surprised that you're like, where the hell is this thing? If it wasn't for the technology that I use via the app, and in some cases like a VR headset, you wouldn't be able to see that thing, all right? And I was pretty, like I say, pretty good. I've got a trained eye for seeing things at distance, but you know, drones aren't the size of people, and the moving parts on these things, you know, they can be quite hard to locate in terms of just using the Mark 1 SUSAT eyeball. Okay. So yeah, to shoot them things down, is it an effective way of doing it? It's certainly a way of doing it. Effective. Well, 38 of which were shot down today out of the 43. So they've been quite effective, but you know, it's not really the countermeasure that you want in place for these things. So airports and stuff like that have got countermeasures for drones, and some of the airports were using, you know, birds of prey, for example, to take these drones down. But you know, we're not dealing with commercialized drones without munitions attached to them. In Ukraine, we're using, we're seeing commercial drones, the smaller ones, especially. You know, they've been modified with the capability and the ability to be able to carry explosive and stuff on them. So it's quite a different threat, isn't it, really, over there? But yeah, shooting them down, it's a good effort with just normal weapon systems. Julian, yeah, okay, we're gonna get rid of you, buddy. Let's block. Right, he's hidden actually. Yeah, cheers, Don. Thank you, Don. That's why we've got people like Don in the chat. I appreciate you, Don, for looking after the stream, man. Morgan Williams gifted 10. Bloody hell. Okay, that's like a massive thing, guys. Thank you, Morgan. Wow, you're the first gifter on the channel, I believe. Gifted 10 Gendic Commando memberships. Thank you for that. Wow. Carl Green, welcome to the members. Irma Gerd, welcome, guys. Wow, thank you, Morgan. Thank you for that. That's super, man. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, dude. Wow, that's very kind of you, man. You guys take me by surprise every time that happens. I'll never get used to that. Wow, that's really nice of you. Thank you, man. Welcome to the team, troops. Thank you. So yeah, let's get back into the. So the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Russian forces continue to strike Ukrainian infrastructure and military command facilities. The infrastructure that they were talking about specifically there is power plants and stuff. You might be thinking, well, why take a power plant? It's not necessarily as obvious as you would think. So you're taking out power plants to effectively, it's not necessarily the areas that you would think. We're talking about striking fear into the local populace here, okay, the civilian populace. So that's who we're talking about. We're talking about affecting power supplies to residential premises, places where normal, regular people live. That's going to affect people at the very basic level, i.e., you know, heating up water, boiling the kettle, feeding children, that kind of thing. It's not great, is it? It's going to affect you deeply. And then we've got the other side of it. You know, you might not have an internet connection because of that. You know, you need electricity to run it if you hardwire your internet and stuff. So there's a lot of benefits for Russia to be able to do that. There's a lot of negatives for Ukrainians who are bearing the brunt of that. Okay, so you know, the striking Ukrainian infrastructure to affect the civilians localized in certain areas, and we've seen that with these drone strikes. So it's all thought out, well processed intention to cause, you know, terror and panic and suffering to the local individuals. Does that make sense? Wow, Spence Onyxon, thank you. You gifted 10 Gendic Commando memberships as well. Wow, thank you very much for that, brother. You've been very kind over the past, like, since forever, man. Thank you for that, Spencer. Spencer's like the top guy on the channel, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. 6th Day Blue says, "Have a pint on me, sir." I will definitely. I'll have a pint on you. In fact, no, I haven't got any pints on me here in the studio. I should really get some pints ready to go for stuff like this. Thank you for that, troops. If you haven't smashed the like yet, let's get over 200 likes. Thank you for the. We've got 20 gifted subs, man. That's a wonderful chat there. Welcome 20 new members to the channel, troops. hopefully you can stay post your membership. I appreciate that. So let's what are we talking about? Yeah, military command facilities. It goes without saying, if you can take out certain command posts, command facilities, then you're going to affect strategic planning. You're going to affect the results of the strategic plan that's already taken place on the ground. Why does Russia want to do that? Well, the way the counteroffensive has been going and moving in the east, irrespective of what you think, the map proves that they've been doing quite well, albeit they've been taking their own casualties of war, and their own suffering has been taking place. There's a massive amount of land that's been retaken for whatever reason you want, okay? That's success. You can only deem that as being successful in terms of military strategy, okay? It's worked. So by them taking out military command facilities, being in effect in the decision making on the ground, both the practical side of it, the technical side of it, then you're going to affect potentially how the next stage of the war goes. So that's why they're doing that. Affect the civilians. You get the you get the mindset changed of the civilian populace, and affect the strategy. Going forward, you're going to affect how the war turns out. So that's why they're doing this sporadic attacks as such. Okay. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated yesterday, or the day before rather now, that Russian strikes between October the 10th and 18th destroyed 30% of Ukrainian power stations in a likely attempt to demoralize Ukrainian civilians that is unlikely to succeed. See, we've just mentioned that. We've just spoke about how that is an attempt to demoralize Ukrainian civilians. And, the unfortunate fact of the matter is that will happen, okay? They will be demoralized. It's something that's... it's going to affect people drastically, Just picture yourself, even basic amenities now. I mean, we need, in 2022, basic amenities it looks very different to what we would classify as basic amenities 10, 15, 20 years ago. Basic amenities in a military sense is food, water, shelter. Yeah, food, water, shelter. Feed yourself, hydrate yourself, and shelter yourself from the environment you're in. That's basic amenities in a military sense, right? That's basic amenities. If you're on the battlefield now, what would be expected, okay, as a basic amenity? Basic amenities for civilians in 2022, it goes above and beyond that to the point of which, is internet a basic amenity now? Well, let's look at what's going on in Ukraine, certain levels of propaganda that's been proposed, certain areas that have been taken over by Russians and stuff like that. Well, some could argue that having internet access, that access to another opinion outside of that little bubble of war, is a basic amenity, okay? Because people need that information. Without information, we see things in certain countries around the world, not going to mention any names. We see people being oppressed drastically just because they don't have access to something as basic as internet access, okay? So I think it goes above and beyond what we think. We have to look a little bit deeper of what a basic amenity is now. And that's the reason Ukrainian power stations are being targeted, because it is a basic amenity to have internet access, all right? Forget about the food and water thing. That goes without saying now. That's ingrained in society, that's a basic amenity. But I'm thinking about the bigger picture here, strategically thinking, how you would like to condition an individual for this war. Well, take away the internet access. They no longer have access to the outside world's thought, condemnations of the war, all of that, okay? So it goes a little bit deeper than that, if that makes any sense, guys, okay? Now, current and former US officials confirmed to the New York Times on October the 18th that members of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are in Russian-occupied Crimea to train Russian forces on how to use the Iranian drones they purchased, thereby enabling likely Russian war crimes. Yeah, so it's a bit of a sticky situation, Iran, at the moment. We've got their own... they've got their own problems in the country at this moment in time. I've been wanting to touch on that subject. It's, I I believe Iran's more of a touchy subject to encroach on than Ukraine at this moment in time, not just for political reasons, but I think even just religiously speaking, I think it's a bit of a touchy subject with regards why people are protesting over there. It's a touchy subject, but if you want me to do similar types of stuff in terms of updates on Iran, then let me know. I'll do that if there's enough scope for it. Okay, let me know in the chat if you'd like to see that anyway. But yeah, they're certainly facilitating training for Russia with regards to their, I think it's a Shahid, I think it's called, their drones over there. So yeah, it's in terms of international relations, that's a dodgy situation. Now, ISW had assessed on October 12th that any Iranian personnel in Ukraine were likely IRGC drone trainers. The New York Times reported that it remains unclear whether Iranian trainers are flying the drones themselves or merely teaching Russian forces how to do so. Both bad in the grand scheme of things. However, if we look at it, let's break it down. Let's look at both points of view. Training individuals for then, you know, if you purchase whether you're at war with a country or not, if you're training an individual to use a bit of kit that you've purchased, which happens all the time, not so much of a problem. That's to be expected. Okay. Now, change it up slightly. The countries at war, you're training them on. Okay, well, you know, Britain's doing that, US is doing that, countries do that. That's what happens. You pick a side, you train them up if you want to help. Okay, we get that. But if they're out there actively flying them drones themselves, then that changes things completely. That country has effectively committed themselves to the war. On a political level, they are supporting. So that changes things drastically, guys. These is, without trying to, and you know I'm not an alarmist or anything, but that's how world wars start, effectively. One company steps over the line from help to, you know, providing physical help. You know, you're on the ground, you're partaking in war. Does that make sense? So, yeah, it's an interesting one with regards to that. Now, Russian forces have directed dozens of Iranian-made Shahed 136 drones against civilian targets in Ukraine since mid-September, prioritizing creating psychological terror effects on Ukrainian civilians rather than achieving tangible battlefield effects. We've been speaking about this quite predominantly in this stream and a few videos post. You know, the psychological effects is psychological warfare is fully it's fully materializing above everything else. Now we can see that it's actually happening, okay, before our very eyes. Psychological warfare is probably the worst form of warfare because it affects individuals who shouldn't be affected at certain times. Excuse me. But yeah, that's that. We've got a few other things we want to get through, guys. I want to read through a few other articles on that, and then we're going to get into the East Ukraine offensive, Southern Ukraine offensive, some key takeaways on that. Then we're going to go into some map study stuff. We're going to go into some news articles. But I need a drink of water. 2 seconds. Drink of water. Wow, 276 viewers watching me hydrate or die. Crazy that we've actually just peaked as well. So maybe I should start talking more about. Maybe I should just start drinking water on streams instead of talking about Ukraine. Wow, Spencer Onyxon. Thank you for your super chat, man. You're saying I'll pay $20 to say Nancy Pelosi should be a Halloween mask this year. I think she already is. You know, I don't know too much on. We're going to digress slightly. I don't know too much on American politics, but what I do know is this: if you're not American, don't say anything about American politics, because the people who agree with you are going to kick your ass. The people who disagree with you are going to kick your ass. It's basically stay the hell out of it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that one. But I believe Pelosi's already a mask out there somewhere. I'm pretty sure of that. Right. Boom. Where do we get to? So, yeah, psychological battlefield effects. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin, unequal implementation of partial mobilization is causing social fractures that are driving the Russian information space to further marginalize ethnic minority communities. Institute Study of Wars previously reported an October 15th shooting at a Belgorod Oblast training ground was likely a natural consequence of the Kremlin's continued policy of using poor and minority communities to bear the brunt of forced generation efforts while protecting ethnic Russians and wealthier Russian citizens. You know, that's terrible, really, isn't it? We've seen that they started to threaten business owners and stuff on the ground if they weren't going to donate money. They would have to donate their time on the battlefield, quite literally threatening businesses, some of them very successful as well, threatening them with, if you don't sponsor us and give us some money, we're gonna mobilize your ass to the front lines. I mean, you know, you can't write that stuff. It's outrageous to think. I know there's going to be times in history where we've seen countries mobilize civilians, but there's not a time in, and I might be massively ignorant to this, I don't believe there's a time certainly in Great Britain where businesses were threatened. I might be wrong. I might be made to eat my words on that. I'd be very surprised. Let me know in the chat, guys, if that's actually something that we've been guilty of as well. And I say we, let's just say the Western world, okay? But yeah, Russian sources blamed that shooting on two ethnically Tajik Russian citizens who had been forcibly mobilized. The Russian information space has largely responded with virulently xenophobic rhetoric against Central Asian migrants and other peripheral social groups. A Just Russia Party chairperson Sergei Minrov posted a long xenophobic critique of Russia's migration policy on October 18th, claiming that mobilization exposed systematic failures within the Russian immigration system. Mironov blamed military commissars for allowing people who pose a threat to Russian security into the Russian armed forces, and accused military commissariats of keeping their door wide open for individuals from Central Asia. But yeah, crazy. Thank you for the US super chat. Thank you, brother. Make sure you get a question in there, buddy. Maker of Madness, I'm not going to let you speak here in the chat, buddy. So hide that message for now. Keep it straight. If you don't, you just have to get hidden on the channel, okay? Let's just try and keep it civil, man. We've all got our points of reference that we want to get angry over. There's anyone on this chat, in the chat, could do that. I could do that with some of my, points of interest that really get me angry. But, I'm not going to put up with it on the channel. There's plenty of people who just want to come onto the channel to read the comments and have a adult civilized debate. All I'm doing is facilitating that. So, putting rhetoric in the chat like that, I'm not going to accept that. Okay, so just get the hell out of here or enjoy a nice comment back and we'll let you crack on, mate. Because I haven't got no problems with anyone, all right? And I certainly don't want to have a problem with you, mate. Yeah, but I get that you might be have an opinion or something. Have an opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just try and keep it straight, dude, okay? I appreciate you for being here. Mironov proposed a moratorium on granting Russian citizenship to citizens of Tajikistan. Why can't I pronounce that? Mironov calls for immigration reform, demonstrate the role that partial mobilization has seemingly played in catalyzing ethnic divisions, racism, and xenophobia in the Russian domestic space, especially against ethnic minorities. So, I mean, that's these problems have existed, well, they exist all over the world for one, but certainly the past 20, 30, 40 years, Russia's been pretty bad for this anyway. It's not often you serve with someone in the military who has direct origin to Russia. Certainly in Britain, I've only ever met one. I'll not mention the name, sex, or anything of that individual, but let's just say they really disliked what Russia was, is, and is becoming. Not because of the people there, just like me and you, okay, they want to have a good life, but you know, certain measures at the top, i.e. the political sphere, can change the way people think below that. And yeah, they've got a lot of problems, I think. I'm not trying to preach to the Pope about this, but it's we've got our own problems in all of our countries, but Russia's, you know, they've got problems, man, with that. And again, ethnic minorities are being seen off massively, which is not fair, really. 320 concurrent viewers. Guys, thanks for being here. Smash that like button if you enjoy this type of stuff. Thanks for being here. Spencer Oniskin, thank you. Yeah, keep it positive, Maker. Yeah, I think Maker's good now. Adam Hellman, thank you for your super chat. He's saying YouTube boxers scared to come up and try real boxers. I agree. I went to a YouTube boxing show. We'll digress shortly for a few seconds. At the weekend, I was impressed with the show. I prefer the show, actually, how they run the show to a professional one. The atmosphere was friendly. It was nice. I enjoyed it. But the level of fighting it's not to a professional standard, but in a sense that's a good thing because it creates a fun atmosphere. It's entertainment business, and it's certainly entertaining. I was entertained down there, and I want to try and break into the YouTube boxing scene, guys, but that's a different story for a different video. Thank you for your super chat. Adams K01 says, you've just learned what Gen Dip means. Love your content, brother. Mad props from this side of the pond. Thank you, mate. Gen Dip. Yeah, if you guys don't know, many people think it means general, and then Dit is my first name and Commando is what I was. It's not the case. Gen Dit means true story or genuine story, or Dit is a story in the Marines, or you know, if I'm talking about something, I'm spinning a dit. I'm talking about something. Right now, this is a dit. I'm talking about something. Gen means genuine. Gen Dit Commando means I just wanted to, you know, speak my truth as a commando. That's what it means. So thanks for bringing that up. Adams, thank you. I appreciate that. I think we're going to get through a few bottles of water here, and I appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you for that. I couldn't do this without that, you know. I appreciate it so much. Where we at? Belarus. Let's talk about Belarus. Now, Belarus continues to provide its territory and airspace to support the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but remains highly unlikely to enter the war on Russia's behalf. Now, I'm going to ask you guys the question. Do you think that is so? Do you think that is so? I've had mixed opinions on this. I thought last week that we were going to see Belarus potentially invading from the north. We've seen that de-escalate. I don't know. I just think if pushed, they probably could. What does if pushed look like? Well, it depends on how successful Russia is with this whole campaign. If they achieve their overall objective, and they know that's imminent, then we might see a change of stance with Belarus out of fear. I don't know. It's literally like pick your side, pick this most successful side, isn't it? Do you know what I mean by that? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, though, troops. Now, the Ukrainian General Staff reported on October 18th that Belarus continues to allow Russia to use Belarusian military infrastructure and airspace to launch missile, air, and Shahed 136 drone attacks on Ukraine. Geolocated social media footage shows Russian military hardware moving through Belarus by rail, which is consistent with the Institute Study of Wars previous assessments that Belarus will continue to engage in the war as a co-belligerent without Belarusian forces directly participating in combat operations. Now, the question is, do you see Belarus changing that stance over time based off pressure from Russia to be able to step up in combat operations? They're already providing support. Is Russia just a shortage of manpower away from them being forced into the mix with boots on the ground? I think that's a possibility, personally. You know, that could happen. Anything's a possibility, obviously, but I do think that that is a possibility. You know, hopefully not, though, because that does change things. And we've seen with this failed mobilization that has affected, as we just read, ethnic minorities in Russia. They've even got bloody prisoners on the ground right now, you know. So that tells a massive story with how successful the mobilization has went, the mobilization effort. Do you think that Belarus would give support with boots on the ground in the future should the mobilization continue to be as unsuccessful as it has been showing over the past month or two? I think it's a possibility, but hopefully we don't see the day. Now, Russian armed forces are almost certainly too degraded to reopen a northern front against Ukraine from Belarusian territory in the coming months. The Ukrainian General Staff also noted that Belarusian armed forces are conducting covert mobilization under the guise of training sessions, although mobilization in Belarus is likely an attempt by Belarusian President to demonstrate his support to Putin rather than a tangible indicator of Belarusian military involvement in Ukraine. That's what we were talking about before. It's an attempt to demonstrate their support for Putin. So that attempt to demonstrate support is directly dictated on how successful or unsuccessful Russia is within this war. So I believe that that attempt can escalate or de-escalate depending on how successful Russia is in achieving its aim within Ukraine. You know, if it looked like they were, for whatever reason, imminently looking at success within their objectives, you'd probably see an increased attempt to demonstrate more support to Putin. Does that make sense? So I think that depends. The key indicator is how well they're doing or how bad they're doing. That's what I think anyway. I might be wrong on that. I'd like to hear or see your opinions in the chat on that one, troops. Now, Russian troops conducted a limited ground attack in northern Kharkiv Oblast on October, seemingly suggesting that Russian forces may retain territorial aspirations in Kharkiv Oblast, despite massive losses during recent Ukrainian counteroffensive. Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian troops repelled a Russian attack on Orytsev, a settlement 2 kilometers south of the international border and about 50 kilometers northeast of Kharkiv city. The nature of its limited incursion is unclear, but it may suggest that Russian troops are continuing offensive operations near that border, considering the current constant degrading state of Russian offensive capabilities in Ukraine. Holistically speaking, Russian troops are very unlikely to make any gains in this area. Let's have a look at the map then. Right, so I'm going to get the map up in a sec, but let me write this down for future reference, because I'm going to look into this. Sorry, guys, I'm making no apologies for pausing and stuff and doing other things. As I said, the pace in which we do things on the live streams is going to be different. So get a coffee or a beer if you're from America or Australia. That's how we do things here. Right, so Russian attack on a... Right, let's have a look at this then. I want to have a look at this on the map. Deep state map. Boom. You guys can see that, right? Let me know in the chat, troops. 326 lights, 359 watching. All right, so right next to the border. Right, where's my trusty pen? I love this pen. Boom. Right, okay. So right, I'm trying to think. So what the reasons be? Trying to think what the main reasons would be for them trying to re-establish some form of foothold in that region specifically. Surely, if you wanted to take the dominated area within Kharkiv Oblast, you would have to push back east to west, pushing through Kupiansk, and then just basically going the reverse route in which you've lost your ground too. I don't see how them pushing in a completely different direction on the border with no real aim is going to achieve anything significant. Hence, the map is actually, hence the campaign assessment has actually said the Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian troops repelled a Russian attack. A settlement 2 kilometers south of the international border, about 50 km northeast of Kharkiv. The nature of this limited incursion is unclear, but may suggest that Russian troops are continuing offensive operations near the border, considering the... so it doesn't make any sense that they would do that. The fact, and we need to talk about this as well. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of an understanding of how this happens. So Ukraine soldiers, they're fighting on their home turf. Okay, so it's a lot different for them, clearly, in terms of how they hold land compared to Russia, because it's obviously not their home turf. So if you think about this logically, if Russia was to push through, let's just look at an area here, right? If Russia was to push through this settlement or town here, right, they would have to then leave troops behind to defend that area, okay? And quite a considerable amount of troops depending on the size of that area, right? They would have to leave men behind. Why? Because the local populace, the civilians who live there, are completely against that, okay? So they have to leave defending forces behind. Significant. So every time they push through, they've got to literally leave individuals back. So when they move forward, unless they've been resupplied with more manpower, they'll not be able to move forward with the same projection in which they originally came through that area with. And that's what we've been seeing, dwindling numbers as they've continued to take land. So they've had to leave men behind. Now, if we're talking about Ukraine, let's just look at Ukraine taking the same place back. They push their manpower. They push their troops through, whatever manpower they want to use for that area. They rid the Russians from that area, and they push on through with the same amount of manpower that they arrived with, give or take casualties and stuff. Why? Because once they've liberated a town, they've ridded that area of Russian aggressors. Depending on the current situation, obviously I'm mega simplifying this, but because it's their home turf they're fighting on, they don't need to leave anyone behind per se to defend that area like they do if they're going to continue to push on to this area and this area. They might leave a few people behind, but they're not going to have to leave as many people behind as what Russia would do. All right, that's just a fact. You push on through, you liberate the land, you push on to the next and the next and the next. The only place they need to currently defend and keep their manpower at, logically speaking, is whatever area they've currently pushed on through to. And then when they push through to the next area, the same thing happens. All right, the manpower then pushes up into these areas, and then they keep on carrying on. So we might think, well, a lot of people don't realize that's how it's happening. Give or take. It's not going to mean that they're not going to leave anyone behind in these areas. All right, that's not the case. But it's a very different strategy that they have to adopt compared to what Russia does. So the more land they take, the more troops they need to hold that land. Whereas Ukraine can use the same amount of troops to push on through, and then next, push on through, and then next, push on through. They don't have to leave countless amounts of troops behind in these areas to be able to sustain themselves. That's the best thing of this. So to get to my point, when we're looking at sporadic attacks on the northern border here, it doesn't make any sense why they would do that, because all of their manpower, all of Russia's manpower is here. This is where their manpower is, okay? So why they're trying to do that here, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see any tactical reasoning behind it personally, and that's why they're saying this. Although they're, continuing operations, offensive operations near that border, it's not really going to provide any major gains for the Russian military. That's what they're saying. That's what I've already believed. That's what I already believe, guys. And I believe I've missed something in the super chat. Let's get back to this map after I've thanked Spencer Oniston. Wow, gifted 10 Gendic Commando memberships. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Spencer. Let's go, man. All them wonderful members now part of the channel. Thank you, brother, for doing that. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you, man. Hi, Brass, Geoff, Jasky. Welcome to the members, man. Good to see you guys. Spencer's been a member for like 7 or 8 months, troops. One loyal guy. Thank you. Let's go, man. Wow, I can't believe I have a platform for such wonderful people. Thank you, troops. So grateful. Getting a little bit sentimental here. I remember when people thought I wouldn't even get to 100 subscribers. Genuinely, I was laughed at. I swear, honestly, a little bit off topic now, but I was laughed at. It was more achievable in many people's eyes for me to get one of the hardest berets on the planet than it was to get 100 subscribers on my channel. Here I am with 407 people live watching, and I don't know. Mental. Water break, guys. Stick around, water break. I haven't got no adverts or anything to bang on, so I'm just gonna retract back slightly, let you guys enjoy the scenery of the of the studio, and yeah, let's see how many likes we can get for me drinking water. Chris Frederick, shout out to you, buddy. Dude, I just passed 150 and still grateful for everyone. Well, good on you, man. If you can get 150, you can get another 150. All right? That's my mentality. My mentality was, if I can get 100 subscribers, that means I can do that 10 times, I can get 1,000. That's what I'm saying. All I've got to do now is get 4 times what I've got, and I'll be past 1 million. Be honest with you guys, subscribers, it means a lot, but once you get past a certain number, it's viewership that really counts. All right, you got to have people watching the videos. That's the most important thing. But we digress. Space Wolf says, well, that's an amazing name. Thank you, Space Wolf, for your super chat the other day. Your super thanks. I remember that name. You're saying I watch your videos on YouTube when they were just reacting to different military topics, and I enjoy them. Yeah, we've kind of went back from the reaction stuff, but I'm loyal to reactions. We're gonna get a few reactions in because they've been loyal to me. And they're fun. I like doing reaction videos. Julie came from you paid to Mercado and we're paying back to you. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Hell, brother from Arizona. Arizona, Robert Webster. Good to see you, dude. Awesome. I like Arizona. Fantastic place indeed. Let's get back into this, shall we? Boom. Then a bit more map talk. Troops. Where we at? Right, so we talked about the Russian troops. So the key takeaways of all that information, let's just go through it, shall we? Russian forces continue to target critical Ukrainian civilian infrastructure with air, missile, and drone strikes. If you missed my latest video, go and watch that one. I talk about that specifically, the kamikaze drone strikes and stuff. Interesting video, really good topic to talk about. Some good bits of information in there. Not sure why it hasn't done very well viewish wise, because that's the thing with YouTube. It always surprises me. Some of the videos that do really well don't, and the ones that I think should, because the information in them just, yeah, they just don't do very well. So the last video focuses on that one. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out, troops. Russian troops conducted a limited ground attack in northern Kharkiv. We've just talked about that. I don't see any major gains in that. I don't see any major gains occurring for that, guys, personally. Iran is allegedly, there's debate around whether or not they've went from training Russian troops to utilize and use the drones to potentially they might even be using them themselves. It's still unclear. That changes things massively. Belarus continues to provide its territory in support for Russia. That could change, as we've spoken about, depending on how well or how bad Russia does. I think the support that Belarus provides is dependent on how successful or unsuccessful they are. That's what I think. Russian sources claim that Russian forces conducted limited ground attacks in the northeastern Kharkiv Oblast to regain lost positions. Yet, not really done very well, though. Russian sources stated that Ukrainian forces continued counter-offensive operations across the entire front line in KHERSON Oblast. We've also been hearing that they might be retreating from that location. Ukrainian forces continue to target Russian ground lines of communication and nano depots in KHERSON. Russian forces continued ground attacks near Bakhmut. What else we got? That's it for that. I think we're going to get into a bit of a map study. Not this one, because nothing has changed too much on this. Assessed control of terrain in Ukraine and main Russian maneuver axes as of October 18th. Massive amounts of blue there. Main effort East Ukraine. And obviously what's going on in KHERSON Oblast region, troops. What we got in the chat? Hey, Carl Green, thank you for your super chat. You're saying US may send Avenger and Phalanx systems to Ukraine. There's also talks of the people behind the HIMARS rocket systems. This is interesting, this. There's talks behind the guys who basically manufacturing them, upping their manufacturing process to build, I think it's over 90 per year. Is it Lockheed Martin? I think it's Lockheed Martin. Am I massively off with that? I think it's that. But anyway, irrespective of who's building them, they have just upped their rate. So the arms race has begun effectively in terms of they're preempting that these things are going to be bought and utilized. So they've just upskilled the whole thing, putting money into it. That's the one of the unfortunate things of war. But depending on how deep you want to get, someone's profiting from it somewhere. And yeah, I guess we've got to be careful having an opinion on that, because if I was to say how dare they, I'm kind of, and this is me trying to be devil's advocate, I'm kind of, what's the word? I'm forgetting the word now. Kind of contradicting myself if I'm trying to think what the correct word is. For instance, Carl, you've just given a super chat there for £5. So am I technically profiting from this war? Have you, that's just the way I think. I like to play devil's advocate on it. I don't want to be two-faced and have an opinion. Granted, I'm not making trillions of pounds, dollars, or whatever like these companies are, but people profit from war in many different ways. It's an interesting topic, that actually, or one that affects more people than we'd believe. Yeah, it's strange that YouTube in general is people profit from war. Lee McGovern says, yeah, Lockheed Martin, yeah. I thought it was. Putin ordered Bakhmut be taken by weekend. These companies didn't ask Russia to invade. GG, yeah. 96 Don Batter says, yeah, I thought it was 96, but they may scale up further. The international arms export market would gladly snap them up if they could. Yeah, I mean, they've been effectively, extremely instrumental. The more, the better in this war for Ukraine. That's one thing for sure. Those things would have been, the more, the better for the HIMARS rocket system. Yeah. But just reading a few of the messages, guys, and then we'll get back into some of the stuff. In fact, let's do it now. Eastern Ukraine. Right, so I need to change up the map slightly. In fact, we'll just, because it's a live stream, we'll go back and forth. I'm not going to read off one screen and then do the map stuff. We'll do both simultaneously and back and forth, if you guys don't mind. Eastern Ukraine, Russian sources claimed that Russian sources claimed Russian forces. Space Wolf, yes, that is the word. That's the exact word. Hypocrite. I don't want to be hypocritical by saying people are profiting. Was like, well, I've just getting a donation of someone there. I'm talking about the war, so technically speaking, am I too profiting from it? I mean, not directly speaking. You know, I think that would be terrible. Space Wolf, you're saying I personally do not think that you are. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, mate. Kristen says, are people putting a price every day? Goods and services, even if their costs haven't risen. Yeah, I'm seeing the direct effects of goods and services being increased massively. Effie says, even Zelensky is profiting millions. Well, you know, the sanctions that occurred initially on Russia directly profited Putin. Directly. You know, on the exports of oil. Fuel. I mean, India's still buying massive amounts off the country. So you could say that our suffering is, and the sanctions that were imposed to stop, to stop antics, haven't done anything to the perpetrator, but they've affected everyone else, even me. Like, my fuel prices are through the roof. Gas prices are through the roof. Can't run my van. It costs like 120 quid to fill my van up. Some days you literally have to go, I need to just probably not use my vehicle because it costs so much. That's real talk. And that's for everyone, you know. I know loads of people. I know even wealthy people get hit because wealthy people have bigger houses, bigger, faster cars. It costs more money for them. So it's not just hitting average people. It's hitting everyone, you know, everyone. That's the truth of it. But we digress. Now, let's get into this. Eastern Ukraine. Russian sources claimed that Russian forces conducted limited ground attacks in northeastern Kharkiv Oblast to regain lost positions on October 18th. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Russian troops recaptured Horbivka, a settlement in northeastern Kharkiv Oblast, about 16 kilometers northeast of Kupiansk. Okay, that's slightly different. Let's have a look at this. Horbivka. I recognize that from a previous... Horbivka. Yes, there it is. It's not even on the bloody map. There we go. Yes. Right, so it's alleged that they've regained this settlement here. You could say strategically it's of value because of the road system that's there. And I'm just trying to think outside the box here. That road system, although it's not going to directly affect, everything past here, but it could potentially. you know, Ukraine still covers all of this. I'm just trying to think how that would affect the situation in Kupiansk. I don't think it could, but it could be the start of affecting that situation. There's nothing major. I mean, it is a semi-major road system. I think it's a road system. Does it lead directly to Kupiansk, which is a major resupply route? Ukraine's got full control of all of this here. I'm not too sure if it's going to affect anything. But if they have taken that area back, then it is traction on Russia's behalf. We haven't seen much movement over the past week due to the media blockout. I'd be really interested in seeing potential movement in this region again. But if we look, actually, there has been movement. Right, what's happened here? This could just be repositioning, strategic repositioning on what's actually accurate. Makivka. Right, so Makivka, just a road system there, I believe. A little settlement, nothing too much going on. Road system there. It was alleged that they obviously pushed through that crossroad. Now, as it's been reaffirmed, they still hold that crossroad, but yeah, the land's changed ever so slightly. Nevsk. Has that been part of that? No, that hasn't hit either. As we move further down, the attorney, Novosadov, there's a road system there that looks like it's being pushed back. It looks like Ukraine don't hold that, but they hold it internally. I'm not too sure what this is insinuating. It would be good when these maps come back online again and the information, the media blockout is no longer prominent anymore. But yeah, we're not seeing any major traction. I'm just going to see if we can see anything else down here. Okay, so there is a bit of movement in this ground. What's this? Unknown status. Right, well, if it's unknown, it's been pushed forward slightly in favor of Russia. Yeah. And some grounds being taken or redevised as being taken down here. These are little gains in favor of Russia. It looks it anyway. I don't want to make too much of that due to the media blockout. I don't want to surmise too much on that. I know they're still carrying out operations in Donetsk. It's difficult to come to... you can see why they've asked for a media blockout on this. Because we can provide information on the ground, not necessarily real time, but somewhat real time. And it's hard to do that without information. And that information is being blocked. Obviously, this area, KHERSON Oblast, no major changes whatsoever according to the map. Yeah, kind of wish it would come back online, but that's where we're at with our troops. So settlement in North Kiev Oblast of our 16th. Yeah, we've checked that. The Russian MOD also claimed that Russian troops conducted a limited spoiling attack around Kaisivka, around 20 kilometers southeast of Kupiansk. The Ukrainian General Staff and Russian sources notably stated that Russian forces shelled KHERSON, just south of Kishkla, indicating Ukrainian forces have advanced southeast of Kupiansk up to, right, we're going to look into that right after I say thank you to Ashley Anderson for the super chat. You're saying if you haven't, you need to watch a Caspian report about Russia and Ukraine. I will do that. I like that channel, actually. I haven't kept up with the news on that, though. What's it about, actually? Specifically, obviously, it's about Ukraine and Russia. What's it about specifically? Right, so where are we going to go back to this on the map? Russian sources notably stated that Russian forces shelled... Right, let's have a look at this. So Russian forces have allegedly shelled this area, indicating Ukrainian forces have advanced southeast of Kupiansk. Oh, okay. Right, so it's there. Right, let me read that information again. Russian sources notably stated that Russian forces shelled that area, just south of this area, indicating Ukrainian forces have advanced southeast of Kupiansk up to there, right? So we're getting information out on this. We just have to be a bit strategical. Strategical. All right, let's look at this. You guys can see on that one or better. That one or better. So areas of interest are Kupiansk and this area here that I can't pronounce very well. So Russia have allegedly shelled this area here. I'm not going to rush it, guys. We've got time. Russia have allegedly shelled this area with the aim of pushing troops who are advancing into this position out of that position, quite simply. So if we look at the ground that we have got pertaining to Ukraine, we've got a settlement Pishin there. Trying to think where they would launch that attack from. We've got Tavyavka. I don't know if they've got that. If someone in the chat could let me know if Ukraine has that. We've got Pishin. That's being pushed back allegedly. So we've got those three areas-ish, main areas that Ukraine could advance from. The information does say southeast of Kupiansk. So we could look at something like this. Seems a bit of a stretch from that position, personally. Could look something like that. Or potentially pushing up. So yeah, Russia has shelled this area, so, giving us the impression that Ukraine is trying to push to take that. Now, taking that strategically, it's of strategic value, certainly, because, you know, you've got this supply route here to be able to help resupply the troops on the front line. Once they take all the land left of that, you've got areas here, settlement here, settlement here, settlement there, all in and around that line of resupply. So strategically speaking, if they take this area here and enable them to push down or across to take these areas if they haven't already taken it, closing that front line down, which is in and around, let's see how wide it is from this, let's just say on average 4 kilometers by, what is it here? 7, yeah, between 5 and 10 kilometers, guys, we're talking. So it's not a massive amount of land that we're looking at here, but Russia have allegedly shelled that area. Let me see if I can get a better imagery. We've got the top one there. See nothing on that. Let's look at satellite, actually. Might be able to get a bit more information on the ground. Yeah, we can. Good stuff. Right, so see a little bit more. Yeah, so it looks